Hello, and thank you for watching Elkniodaphs Plays. I'm playing Microsoft Flight Simulator today. It's been a while. I've been messing around with other things. I've been delivering mail in Lake, and then that game proved to be too glitchy. So I started delivering mail in Yoku's Island Express, which was very good, but I kind of feel nervous that like I'm gonna get stuck, and I don't provide commentary in that game. So if I get stuck without any context in a stream, I have no way to convey that to anyone that's watching. So I thought I would take it back to one of my favorite games to stream, and you can just see a little rainbow kind of arching over the horizon out there. Beautiful, beautiful landscape. This is Norway. We're flying north from, I don't even know where we are, but we're flying to a little place called Hammerfest, and I saw that on the map, and I was like, how can I not fly to Hammerfest? It sounds like a festival for hammers, or even better, a festival for MC Hammer, which is why I named this stream "This Is What We Do." It's one of his songs. It was featured in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, which I just watched with my mother a few days ago. And one of my favorite movies of all time. So this is a stream colored by MC Hammer and Ninja Turtles north through Norway. And it's interesting because I have a friend on Discord who is from Norway, and she was telling me she was playing Life is Strange, and she came upon a restaurant. Was it a restaurant or a shop? I don't remember. But someplace selling some food, and they had the prices listed, and she's like, "Oh my God, these prices are so cheap. In Norway, this would be so much more expensive." And I was like, well, let's do some reconnaissance. As we're flying over all this area, I'm going to see how much farmland there is, because the one constant in all of my flights has been there is so much farmland. And if there's as much farmland as I think there is, then, food shouldn't be all that expensive. So we're going to do some reconnaissance for my friend. We're going to be thinking about MC Hammer and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And, because I've been playing other games, I have my cats are jumping around. Hey, get down from there. Because I've been playing around with other games, I have my screen set up wrong. So give me a moment. Much better. Broadcast bar needs to be on the center bottom. That's where I like to have the broadcast bar. Okay, so here we go. Flying to Hammerfest. All of my flights, every time I laid out a flight plan for the stream, it's been about 2 hours. 2 hour flight plan. Looks like we have an icy runway here. Hey Google, what's the temperature in Norway? 40, 40 degrees. Feels like it's 31. Okay. Just for the record, this is all real-time weather effects. It's I have it set to daytime though. That's the only change I made, because if we're going to be flying over this stuff and commenting on it, I need to be able to see it. So I did change the time of day. I think it's like 1 a.m. there right now. Interestingly enough, my friend from Norway is streaming right now. So one of those 1 a.m. streams. my landing gear up. So this whole flight simulator thing on the stream kind of started as a grand experiment. I I didn't know how compelling it would be to watch a 2 hour stream of a flight in real time, but I wanted to try it out, and this is like my ninth or 10th one. I did take, like I said, I took a few, like a month or two off. The last one I did was, I think it was the last one I did was Australia. I have a friend that lives in Australia, and I flew right into her neighborhood. They have a, a landing strip right in her neighborhood. Um, so I was able to land like right by her house, and she really seemed to get a kick out of that. Um, this down here looks like a frozen lake. I'm sure that's what it is. It's kind of hard to tell because um, a lot of the a lot of the stuff on the left here, which would be like roads and stuff, looks the same. But I assume that's just because snow is covering everything. So yeah, we're just about 300 nautical miles away from our destination, which is a touch farther than I usually lay out the flight plans. But this is a faster plane, so it kind of equalizes. I can see that we have a lot of cloud cover. We have a full-on rainbow coming in. Big circular rainbow. Gain some altitude, maybe make it a little more defined. No, that's not working. And it's gone. Just a touch of a rainbow. Yeah, alternatively, Hammerfest could be a festival for the band Hammerbox. Hammerbox, featured on the soundtrack to Road Rash on the PlayStation 1. I had it on the 3DO. Female lead singer, very good band, Hammerbox. Check them out. The lead singer is on Instagram right now. I was following her for a while, and I feel bad that I stopped following her, but her posts started to get kind of like, I think she's into that, what do you call it? The multi-level marketing. And it's really too bad that her band didn't provide like enough financial security for her not to get into a scene like that, because they're really great. Hammerbox is fantastic. Um, I've been listening to Silverchair today. Frog Stomp is their best album. I should have. I try not to talk about like the obvious things when I'm flying over a place. So like when I was flying over Australia, or no, when I was flying over Iceland, I didn't talk about Bjork. When I was flying over Australia, I didn't talk about Silverchair or Wolf Mother, even though I wanted to. I was able to tamp that down in me. So yeah, I try not to talk about the obvious stuff. Really, flying anywhere is really just quite the same, no matter where you are. You're gonna see vast stretches of nothing, followed by farmland, followed by civilization, usually by water. You know, that would make sense. I'm seeing this incredible vista out in front of me, and it's just a beautiful landscape. Very, very heavy in trees. And my cat's getting up to no good. This is what we do. It's like imagine a pilot having a cat in the cockpit. It's kind of dangerous, and she jumping all around, but that's what we do. I flew over uh, Jordan, the country, when Dune came out, the movie Dune, because that's where they filmed it. And I'm only talking about this because I want it on the record. I named the stream Desert Power because that's a kind of a quote from the book and movie. And later on, I realized I should have named it Crossing Jordan. What a good joke that would have been. And I just didn't name it that, and I regret that. But I just want to put that out there on the record because that would have been pretty clever, but I thought of it too late. That's cool. I mean, you gotta cultivate desert power anyway. So we're gonna keep an eye out for any kind of civilization. The crazy stuff, the crazy thing about flying in these types of areas is like you'll be in the middle of nowhere, and you see this a lot in the States, but you see it a lot in other places too. But um, I was flying in Arizona and Nevada, and it's especially true there, but ends up being true pretty much worldwide, is you'll be flying over these vast stretches of virtually nothing. And then you'll look down, and there will be some little house just in the middle of a clearing. Like, exactly what I'm talking about. Right on cue. There's houses down there. There's like nothing around, but there's like a smattering of like, I don't know, like 10 houses. And you look around and there's nothing. I mean, these people have to like, I mean, there seems to be a road here. Like I'm kind of following a road. But generally speaking, they seem pretty cut off from like where I would imagine a big city to be. So it's pretty impressive that humans really can live anywhere. When I was flying across the desert, there were just like houses out there in the middle of nowhere. It's I find it really impressive. And honestly, this seems to be a pretty good way to see the world. I mean, aside from getting out there and you know, actually going to these places for real. This is, I mean, this is a very convincing recreation of the planet. So you can go anywhere. It's kind of impressive. It never doesn't impress. Whenever I load up the flight simulator, I'm constantly impressed by it. I played. There's some more houses down there. Microsoft Flight Simulator X, I think it was called back in the day, and even that was like impressive for its time. But this blows that out of the water. When I was flying in Australia, it was funny because I was having a really difficult time with how thick the clouds were. Like it was insane. It was like, to borrow a cliche, it was like flying through pea soup. It really was. I mean, I had to rely wholly on my instruments. I had like no visual cues. I was completely blind, relying only on my instruments. And in this game, this version of the game, that's the first time that had happened to me. And honestly, I had never seen um, weather as crazy in this particular version of this game than I did during my flight in Australia. And after the fact, my friend from Australia watched the video and she was like, "Oh yeah, well, there's this thing in Australia. I forget what she called it, but there's this thing in Australia where there's like one day a year where everything goes crazy. Like in America, we have like the nor'easter or whatever, but in Australia, they have their own version of that. And because this is like real time weather modeling, I just happened to make the flight on that day, like right in the middle of it. So, I mean, that explains that one. Um, but uh, but yeah, of course, I would pick that day to fly in Australia. And I'm looking ahead, and I see a lot of low-lying clouds, so I'm not too concerned about that. In fact, it's kind of just a general haze kind of over everything. It does look like it gets a bit thicker up here, but they're really low, so I kind of feel like if I wanted to avoid them, I could just gain a bit of altitude. In fact, we're about 2250 feet high right now, and none of these clouds seem to peak above that. So it seems like we'll be fine. I see some higher up clouds way out in the distance, but again, I'm completely comfortable relying on my instruments. I see a lot of signs. Oh, there's a little house over there. A lot of signs of roads out here that seem to be covered by snow. It feels like is 31 degrees Fahrenheit right now in Oslo. So I imagine that's I don't even know where we are right now, but I imagine that's pretty close to um, temperature here. This is kind of a strangely serene landscape. Like it seems like I'm really high up. Like this is the kind of view you get when like you're 30,000 feet up in like a commercial airliner. Like you just look down and it's nothing but clouds. But we're barely 4,000 feet up. Like we have like this insane cloud cover. But that's always the trick because like I don't want to get too high up because everything I can comment on would be on the ground. Wow, this kind of seems like with the moon out there, this kind of seems kind of like an alien landscape, like a white desert. Very strange, very surreal out here. Let's see, we're headed towards a place called Melto. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Melto Zarvi? Ugh. Very difficult names out here. Some more civilization. Big clearing, kind of squared off, so I'm guessing that this is probably some kind of farm. Hey, you know what? I think I'm kind of understanding why food is so expensive out here. Because if everything's iced over, how are you going to be able to grow your crops? So, yeah, you know what? At the beginning I said we are going to do some recon. I think I kind of get it. And it's all these little pockets too, like, like a 30 house village over here, a 10 house village over there, you know, all these little pockets. And I presume that, I mean, they probably function largely independently because they're so far removed from, like, you know, the big swaths of civilization. So they're out here functioning independently, but like the cool commercial stuff that they do get is probably hugely marked up. So I don't know, kind of looking at it. I mean, this is just one small part. I'm doing a 2 hour flight over Norway. I'm pretty sure Norway is kind of big, but just this one small part, I kind of already get it. These we're moving away from white clouds and into like brown, like tannish hued clouds. It's a very surreal landscape. I kind of want to gain some altitude just so I can like perhaps see the other side of this. We've already made it about a sixth of the way there, which is about on track. We're 20 minutes into the stream. That's about on track. I see the moon up there. I was watching an episode of, I'm kind of addicted to this show called The Osbournes Want to Believe. And it's Ozzy Osbourne, of course, from Black Sabbath, and his wife Sharon. And what they do is they sit down on the couch. Like, this is literally the whole show. They sit down on the couch, and their son Jack shows them, like, paranormal YouTube videos, and then they comment on the video that they just saw. It's like, it's crazy that that's a show. But I've been watching it, kind of addicted to it, and they showed him a video where this guy had like a telephoto lens and he was looking at the craters on the moon, and as he was looking at the craters on the moon, like a swarm of I guess what you would purport to be some sort of aircraft, UFO, is flying in front of the moon. So like you could see the silhouette because it was in front of a light source, or like a reflected light source rather. And there's just these silhouettes just darting across the moon like a swarm. And man, it was quite impressive. I'd never really seen anything like that. That was kind of a new one for me, but very cool. And in the same episode, they started talking about Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. There's a lot of paranormal activity outside of Skinwalker Ranch. Jack, the son, he's a paranormal investigator himself, and he said he was trying to fly a drone over Skinwalker Ranch, and it just fell out of the sky. Like they have some kind of like electromagnetic pulse, you know, some kind of like something to stop drones or any kind of electronic equipment. I mean, it could have just been a coincidence, but I thought, wouldn't it be cool? I don't do night flights, but wouldn't it be cool to hop in like a small plane, like an Icon or like a gyrocopter or something, and just poke around the area around Skinwalker Ranch at night? I don't do night flights, but wouldn't that be kind of cool? Like, wouldn't that be a cool one? Maybe I'll do that next week. I think that's a good idea. And meanwhile, my cat is... Hey, get out of there. Get out of there. Jeez. Every time with this. I don't think I've had a whole flight where she didn't get into something she wasn't supposed to get into. Fortunately, flying's pretty easy in this game. You just kind of... I don't use autopilot. I've actually had problems with autopilot uh, in this game before, so I try not to use autopilot. But if you're just kind of cruising, you can look away for a couple minutes. It's fine. This is what makes it such a good vehicle for commentary too, because I guess there's two schools of thought, right? Because on one hand, if you're providing commentary, you might be thinking, oh, we're going to need a lot of stuff to happen so we can talk about it. But on the other hand, and this is where what I believe, this is where I fall into, is if it's mundane, if you're featuring something mundane, then all the wheels are off. You're completely open to talk about anything. Like, you don't just have to talk about the task at hand, or that cool maneuver you just did with your character, or the color palette or whatever. Like, like if you're featuring something mundane, and I noticed this with Mudrunner. I used to stream Mudrunner. So if you're featuring something mundane, it really opens up the space for the person streaming to really talk about anything they want. So it kind of becomes like a stream of consciousness thing. Um, and I don't even know, like, if I'm good at that. I don't, like, I'm I don't even know. I just I like the concept. I like the concept of turning the hey, get out of there. Oh my god, she's right behind the TV. I like I like the idea of kind of taking the concept of entertainment and creating something that is like right at the edge of mundane but still falls within that category as like a experiment. Hey, you got to cut it out. Don't be jumping around the cockpit anymore. Make me crash. But before the stream, I went out and I bought some strawberry milk and a bottle of water, and I have a Nature Valley bar. It's a soft baked blueberry muffin bar. So if I get peckish during the flight, I can just munch on that. So the cloud cover is starting to break up a little bit. So I'm going to lower my altitude a bit and continue looking for little pockets of civilization. Maybe a city here or there. Any kind of oddities in the landscape, which I've seen a few. That's another interesting thing. Humans have spent their entire existence doing weird stuff on Earth. So it's no surprise that if you take a 2-hour flight anywhere, you're going to see some of it, or the remains of it. I mentioned having flown in Arizona and Nevada, and I believe it was a triangle. There was a giant triangle out there, and it seemed like it might have been 3 runways connected, like at the ends, but it didn't pop up on my tools that it was runways. So I don't know what it was. It just seemed strange. And yeah, that's a good episode. That was the first one I did. I mean, I did like a test flight in like LA and stuff because like my sister-in-law lives out there. So that was like a proof of concept. But like my first real like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and do a 2-hour flight was Arizona and Nevada. And honestly, I was blown away by the amount of farmland out there. And then you begin to see a place like this where there really isn't any farmland, which is really rather surprising. I mean, we're only 30 minutes in. We got an hour and a half left, so we're going to get to that farmland almost certainly. Because it is ubiquitous. Like, there's a little couple houses down there. See, what I'm seeing now is probably farmland. Like, you see, like, square shapes, like geometrically square shapes. Those are probably the fields, but they're dead right now because of the snow and ice. So yeah, then you begin to understand, I think, why, like a 6-pack of eggs costs like $7 or whatever. Hard to keep those chickens alive. All right, you really got to get out of there. Come on. Oh, sorry, my cat. I mean, I know she's doing it on purpose to get attention, but I have to respond because she's behind the TV, and all those wires back there are literally what's making it possible for me right now to stream this game. If she messes with that, then it's over. So yeah, she's doing it to get attention. I'm fully aware of that, but I can't not respond to it. Can't put her in the bedroom or anything. That wouldn't be fair. The wind is pulling me to the right, and for now I'm just going to kind of let it, because I see a point of interest over here that I want to check out. Just because it is so kind of desolate out here, I'll take kind of any excuse to kind of fly over a point of interest. It doesn't look like it's too far out of my way. So, yeah, let's check it out. Let's see what that point of interest is. Still a ways out. I would guess maybe 7 or 8 nautical miles. The moon is out, and I know it actually is nighttime in Norway right now, but the moon does appear very often in the day. And I remember being at school one time, and as kids, we were interested, like, oh, isn't that interesting how the moon is out during the day? And the teacher, literally looking at the moon, tried to tell us that that's not what we were seeing. Okay, you got to get down. And it was just like, I'm literally looking at the moon in the daytime, and the teacher's like, no, that's not the moon. I was like, well, what is it then? Well, that's the sun. Like, isn't that the sun? And she's like, no, that's just a reflection. Like, what are you talking about? And this is a teacher. You wonder why the American school system is completely screwed. It's stuff like that. All right, so the point of interest is something called a Lakela. It's got a umlaut over that last A. I'm not sure how that functions in this language, but yeah, more houses on the side of the street. Y'all get your tickets to Hammerfest. I should be dropping flyers from this plane. It's interesting to see that Norway's, at least in these very rural locations, Norway's little villages and such seem to be built without any consideration for the cardinal directions. I find that interesting because in America, even in the middle of nowhere, you're going to have your house lined up to the cardinal directions. In these rural locations in Norway, they really just seem to be built however they felt like at the time. Like maybe it was aesthetically pleasing or something. I find that interesting. I Yeah, everything in the States is kind of like grid based, like everything's based on like a grid pattern. But out here it's just like really quite free form. That's more natural. I think that's probably a more natural way to live. Everything is just kind of built in the moment and like reflective of the area around it, not not against some arbitrary grid that like a human came up with. Now this is kind of an interesting bit of geography down here. These lines in the snow. That part right there kind of has a runway feel. That's interesting because that's not popping up on my instruments either. So, I don't know. So, we've made it about a third of the way. I see some elevation changes in the landscape coming up. Very slight, but I think we'll see greater elevation changes as we move forward. I think there's going to be kind of a, maybe even kind of a mountain range out here once we get far enough. My friend in Norway and I have, well, we had kind of a friendly rivalry because I had been streaming a game called Lake, and you play this postal carrier delivering mail to these little houses in this cute little neighborhood that surrounds this lake. And we had this rivalry where we were both claiming to be the best mail person, and I didn't tell her that it's in my blood. My mother was a mail carrier for 2 decades, so I already had my foot in the door. I didn't even play that card. I could have, but I didn't. So I was around it a lot. I kind of grew up like in the post office. I remember, and you want a taste of the American school system. I remember we went on one of our big field trips one time to the post office, and you know, like I said, my mom worked at the post office for 20 years, so I was already kind of like in with the people at the post office. So we're on this field trip, and like the kids are like looking at the machines, like, oh look, this is how the mail's sorted, you know, and like the sorting bins and like the mail racks and everything. And I walk in, I'm like, oh hey Gene, how's it going? Hey Steve-O, what's up? Steve-O, he was a good guy. I mean, he's on the fence a little bit, but overall Steve-O was a good guy. So like I'm like knowing everybody, like, oh hey, there's Brenda. How's it going, Brenda? You're the one that drives the red truck. So like I knew all, like it wasn't like an exciting field trip for me because I was there all the time anyway. Um, but anyway, uh, my friend on Discord and I had this rivalry going, where we were trying to be the best male person, like one-upping each other, as it were. And I got to this point in Lake where it just was too glitchy for me to really rely on it for streaming. Because like I would I would stream and something would happen, or like the sound would cut out, or and even she had a situation where her character just didn't spawn in, like the assets that compose the main character didn't spawn in. All my stuff was more like audio issues. Um, but it just became too much of a problem. But I wanted to keep on with the mail, delivering the mail in games for the stream. So I was like, okay, well, there's this game called Yoku's Island Express. Always goes on sale. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream. I didn't feel like I could keep it going consistently. I feel like that's more something that I would want to play on my own, like on my own time, without an audience, because it's the kind of thing where, like, I mean, it's a Metroidvania with pinball mechanics, so it's already kind of like a maze-like structure, the level design. Uh, but then because you're kind of playing a pinball game, it becomes very difficult to navigate because you can't jump. You have to rely on the pinball flippers to kind of um, you know, elevate you to like different platforms and whatnot. And that seemed okay in the moment, but I had to shelve that one too. So now in my head, I'm thinking, well, in the plane, I'm delivering mail. So it's always going to be like a mail delivery thing for me um, when I'm in the plane now, because I have to prove to my friend on Discord that I am, after all, the best mail person. Got a couple of big buildings down here, which seem strange for this in the middle of nowhere. Looks like a barn, and we have some maybe some kind of school. That's probably a school. There's actually a lot of houses down here. They're all obscured by the trees. That's an interesting building. Strange. Yeah, there's a lot of... I think we hit kind of a bigger uh, pocket of civilization here called Circa with two Ks. I'm going to look that up later. If you're just joining the stream, we're flying through Norway. I'm sure a lot of this that we're seeing is frozen water. The weather system in this game is real-time dynamic weather modeling. So, I mean, like the very particular things, like where one cloud is, might be different than it is in real life. But generally speaking, this is real-time weather modeling. And I did change it from night to day, just so we could see. I'm thinking about doing a night stream maybe next week, flying over Skinwalker Ranch. I mentioned earlier on the stream, so that might be kind of fun. I mean, ostensibly looking for UFOs. We're not going to find any because it's just a video game, but you want to create these narratives for your flights because it's more compelling that way. If you have a story to tell about why you're out there, then you know, it becomes more compelling, even if it's complete fiction, which a lot of UFO sightings would be complete fiction anyway, so how is that any different? And wouldn't it be interesting if, like, I did go out there and do a night flight over Skinwalker Ranch, and, you know, maybe there's like a glitch or something, so it kind of seems like there's a UFO. That would be fun. I mean, nothing's going to happen if I don't try. So, looks like we have some water up here, a little pond that isn't frozen. Let's fly over that and check it out. There's always, well, not always, but very commonly, there's little huts next to lakes of that size. I'm surprised to see some water out here that isn't frozen over, but as we're getting closer to it, I'm kind of seeing that it is frozen over. From a distance, the light kind of gleamed off of it in a way that made me think it was still liquid, but apparently not. Still look for a house, though. I don't see any little houses down there. No, nothing out there. Like a million little lakes out here. I flew over Iceland and I had no idea. I'm not very good at geography, I'm the first to admit. But I flew over Iceland and I was blown away by how small it was. Like, I struggled to create a 2-hour flight plan over Iceland. It's just so small. I never knew that Iceland was that small. It kind of took me by surprise. Some hills off in the distance. Whenever you see pockets of elevation like that, that's usually a good sign that there's going to be greater pockets of elevation beyond. I don't know how mountainous northern Norway is. I suppose we'll find out because our destination takes us pretty much to the northwestern edge of Norway. Get a little lower. I always like to imagine that I stumble upon like one random house somewhere, like maybe someone's watching the stream, or they're going to watch the VOD later, or like on YouTube or something if I export. And I stumble upon like one random house, and there's like a guy that searches like his neighborhood, and because of metadata, he ends up finding the stream, and then sees this house on the stream or something. He's like, "Oh my God, I live in the middle of nowhere. I can't believe someone flew a flight simulator out here." I like to. I mean, it's such a far-flung concept, but whenever I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I like to really zone in. Like if I see like one house in the middle of nowhere, I like to make a big point to fly over it. Also, there's really nothing else to do out here. If I see anything out here, I'm going to look at it. We're approaching an area that kind of looks very bog-like. I see what seems to be a lot of swampland. It kind of reminds me of the dead marshes from Lord of the Rings. It just has this kind of like never-ending expanse of just like dead, gross, moldering swamp. Of course, it's frozen. You don't really think of swampland as the type that could get frozen. But that certainly seems to be what we're flying over. Norway's interesting like that, I suppose. Get a little bit lower. This plane wants to gain altitude on its own. Seems like this is the path of a man-made road here. Yeah, goes off to the left. And then I see more squared off shapes, which generally speaking is going to be farmland, but again, it's frozen out here, so it's not going to look like farmland, but I bet you that it is. So we're just about halfway there. We're actually making good time. If I laid out a 2-hour flight plan and we're halfway there after 50 minutes, and somehow we saved 10 minutes. Maybe we got a good tailwind or something. It might not seem like much, but a good tailwind can really propel you pretty good. I think that was the Iceland stream too. I remember getting across Iceland even way faster than my flight plan predicted, and I think I probably just got lucky with the wind. In Australia, I was fighting the wind the whole time. It put me off course so much. We were like half an hour late. It was insane. I never really realized that wind could affect a plane so much. It was such a drastic alteration in what I expected. Never would have thought it could make such a difference, but man, it really did. Australia was a really fun flight. You often think of Australia as this kind of brown, barren, dusty expanse. It isn't really like that. I mean, I'm sure there's parts of it that are like that, specifically the quote-unquote outback. But I was flying along the southeastern coast, and it was really quite green and vibrant, and quite populous out there too. A lot of towns, really quite packed in. This kind of area here, this is what the middle of Florida looks like. I've flown over stuff like this before in real life too. Just this is like the middle of Florida, you know, minus the snow and ice, of course. I was thinking about doing a flight through the Everglades. Possibly. I'm glad we're past that really thick, dense cloud cover, though, because at least we can see the ground now. And again, I see a little house up here. It always impresses me that like someone could just live out here and you know, thrive, do well enough to live in what, a 2-story house? It's probably a 4-bedroom. Crazy. What are you doing out here in the middle of all this where you can have a house like that? It's impressive, honestly. Yeah, it's really cleared up. I mean, there's little pockets of clouds here and there, but generally speaking, it's really cleared up quite a bit. That's a nice shot right there. So I think I said this on several streams, if not each one of them. One of these times I'm going to botch a landing. Landings have always been difficult for me in flight simulators. I can fly with the best of them, but it's the landings that always get me. And I've done maybe 9 or 10 of these streams on this, one of these 2-hour streams on this game so far. And I haven't botched one yet. I've come close. I had some shaky landings, but they were all good landings. The plane stopped and it was still facing it was still upright. um, but one of these times I'm going to botch a landing, and it's probably going to be the time I don't preface the landing by saying I might botch it. So I just want to get that in there. We have 130 nautical miles to go, and we'll see if I can handle the landing. I mean, it's going to be like an obvious mistake too, like I'll forget to put my landing gear down, or I'll be upside down or something. I think it's time to bust open the strawberry milk. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. It was on sale. Really good, rich strawberry whole milk. Brand is called Promised Land. One of my friends, a fellow streamer by the name of Deviant Duckling, one of the first times I watched her stream, she was having this banana milk. And I don't mean like banana milk, like oat milk is made out of oats and banana milk is made out of bananas. It was like banana flavored milk. I think it might have been Korean, like some Korean banana flavored milk drink. And it looked really good, and I was trying to track it down, and like it's really hard to get a hold of. But I don't live in a cool area that gets all the cool like imports. You know, I live in a boring area that has one kind of milk, maybe two if you're lucky. The strawberry milk is pretty good. It's Promised Land Dairy. It says richer and creamier. It is pretty rich, pretty creamy. I had a chocolate ganache cake today, speaking of rich. Oh my god, that was insane. It really kind of made me feel sick the rest of the day. Just having eaten a piece of cake that rich. Ugh. Man, it really took it out of you. You know what I mean? I, uh, my birthday, we kind of had an early birthday celebration for me, and um, the idea was floated to having like a whipped like butter frosting cake with like strawberries and blueberries. I can't remember the name of it, but it sounded really good, and I was kind of like hyped about it, and it ended up being this chocolate ganache cake, which was also very good, and probably the choice I would have made if I was deciding between the two. But after eating that chocolate ganache cake, man, oh jeez, I had to lay down. It's the kind of cake that makes your knees buckle. You know, you got to sit down when you eat it. All right. Yep, flying northwest over Norway to What the heck is the name of the place? Hammerfest. Yeah, I was looking at Google Maps when I was laying this out, and I saw the place was called Hammerfest. I was like, how can I not make that my destination? I obviously have to fly into Hammerfest. How could I not? It sounds like a it sounds like a music festival for '90s hip hop stars. How could I not fly into Hammerfest? I got the Norwegian name. Let's see here. Pull it up on my phone. Hammerfest. Town in Kavaloya, Finnmark, Norway. It says Hammerfest or Hamarfista is a town. Oh, let's not crash my plane here. Is a town that is also the administrative center of Hammerfest municipality in Tromsø, Finnmark County, Norway. It is located on the northwestern coast of the island of Kavaloya, just north of the village of... Oh, God, these Norwegian titles. North of the village of Ripe Fjord and southwest of the village of Forsel. Population 8,000. 27 degrees Fahrenheit there right now. That's -3 degrees Celsius. Wind southwest at 6 miles per hour. Yeah, it's not very windy. Like I said, this is real-time weather modeling, so I would be able to feel if it was windy, and it's not. People also ask, is Hammerfest in the Arctic Circle? Hammerfest is the gateway to the Barents Sea and the Arctic Ocean, making it an ideal jumping-off point for Arctic expeditions. That's interesting, because I had also been planning an Arctic flight. Maybe I'll take off from Hammerfest. Wouldn't that be interesting? Kind of telling a narrative of, like a point-to-point explorative stream. More than 600 miles above the Arctic Circle, the world's northernmost town is also one of the most widely visited places in northern Norway. Wait, Hammerfest is the world's northernmost town? That's amazing. I had no idea. I just picked it because it sounded like I liked the name. I thought I could get jokey about the name. Yeah, the world's northernmost town. Wow, I had no idea. See, this is the thing. I normally go out of my way to not pick like landmarks, because everyone does landmarks. Like, let's go look at the pyramids, or let's go look at the Empire State Building. I don't know what people like. Whatever. Is that something people like? Empire State Building, or whatever. Let's go look at the Taj Mahal. Like, I get it. That stuff's interesting, but everybody does that. Everybody does that. I pick the stuff like, let's fly through the desert. Let's fly through the Arctic Circle. Let's, this is what I focus on because it's different. I want to do the thing that other people aren't doing, which I'm already kind of doing by, performing a 2-hour flight in real time. No one else is doing this. Who's doing this? There's probably some people doing it. There's nothing new under the sun, as they say. But wouldn't it just be my luck to go out of my way, the far-flung reaches of civilization, and basically throw a dart at a map and find this little town called Hammerfest? Doesn't seem like anything. Doesn't seem to reflect any import at all. And then I look it up on my phone during the flight. I'm like, oh, this is a very significant town. This is the northernmost town in the world. I wouldn't exactly call that a tourist destination, but it's significant enough to be, somewhat of a landmark. So of course that happens. I go out of my way to avoid that kind of thing, and I end up falling right into it. There's a lot of good-looking anime shows on Netflix I want to check out. Let's see Netflix here. Oh yeah, I want to watch the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window. Oh, my girlfriend and I have been watching this show called Murderville, and we're 4 episodes in, uh, but it's Will Arnett plays a detective, and he has he he's in homicide, and every episode he has a new partner, and that partner is played by a celebrity who doesn't have the script, so they have to improvise all their scenes. And at the end of it, they have to guess out of everyone they interviewed who they think the killer is. And it's just such a good, simple concept. It's a remake of a show from England. I think they did an episode of Wonderful podcast called Wonderful. I think their most recent episode touched on it. Will Arnett is great. He's the guy that plays Batman in the Lego movies and Job on Arrested Development. Um, the the Marshawn Lynch episode is probably my favorite so far. Like I said, we're 4 episodes in. The Kumail Nanjiani one was really good too, but the Marshawn Lynch episode is really good. It's funny because he's just a football player. He's not an actor. He's not an improviser. I don't know how he wound up in a scenario where he was improvising scenes with Will Arnett on a, comedy drama show, a police procedural, but it worked great. He was great on it. Meanwhile, my cat is still getting into places she shouldn't be. But yeah, let's see. Anime on Netflix. Child of Kamiari month. Looks interesting. The Orbital Children. Comey can't communicate. Oh, new dubbing, it says. Must have been some problem with the old dubbing. Hey, you gotta get out from behind the TV. Come on. I'd put you in the bedroom if I could. I can't leave my flight. Alright, let's get back to it here. Let's lower our altitude and see if we can find any houses. Some turbulence. Got some turbulence. Maybe descending too quickly. We're moving at a pretty good clip. This is a good, speedy little plane. Yeah, I think maybe I'll do that next week, the Skinwalker Ranch one. There's a gyrocopter, which doesn't go very fast, but it allows me to kind of hover and just kind of like survey an area, which I think would actually be pretty good for, that type of scenario. Looking for UFOs and whatnot. And I'm under no illusions that I'm going to find a UFO in the game. But like I said, you have to make these narratives. For instance, today's narrative is I wanted to scope out Norway and see if I could figure out why food was so expensive here, and Yeah, I think I figured it out. Can't grow anything. It's very difficult. Everything is ice. Everything is ice, and I'm not seeing any viable farmland. So that's probably why food is so expensive here. Got fresh batteries in my controller. I need to get a charger. I don't want to rely on batteries all the time because, well, A, it's a waste, but B, my streams are consistently 2 hours. Even if it's not the flight simulator, whatever I'm streaming is probably going to be 2 hours. And I hate the thought that I'd be halfway through a stream and my batteries die. So I think maybe I'll get a charger. I think that would be a good idea. We have a point of interest up there, slightly to the west of our course. I think we'll check that out, see what that's about. Probably more civilization. I did download the Nordic texture pack before I did the stream today. I I kind of have a love-hate relationship with having this game installed on the hard drive because it's over 100 gigabytes, and then all the texture packs are like 5 gigabytes, and there's like 7 of them. So at the end of it, you're looking at like 140 gigabytes just for one game. And that seems excessive. And I don't like to have that big of an install on my hard drive. So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with keeping this installed. But, you know, I knew I wanted to stream Norway tonight. So I started the download in the morning and had kind of an early birthday party at my girlfriend's house and her parents. And came back and it was done. So I just had to download the texture pack and here we are. So yeah, it worked out pretty good. I had some Wolfenstein stuff installed. I had to take that off. I'm going to reinstall it later because I have plans for it. But yeah, I just had to make room. But I'm happy to have it reinstalled. I enjoy the... Oh, that's interesting geography. What's that about? Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Strange. That is weird. It got kind of video gamey for a second. But yeah, I enjoy having this installed. The idea of just being able to pick up and fly anywhere is pretty compelling to me. And I have a whole list in the notepad on my phone of different places I might try flying. Like I said, I mentioned Skinwalker Ranch. Let me see. Let me give you a little preview of what I have in mind. It's better than talking about Netflix shows at any rate. Yeah, I want to check out like an Arctic area. You know, that would be interesting, especially if I find anything out there. That'd be cool. Uh, Chinese wilderness. There's a lot out there. I remember an episode of, I think it was Destination Unknown. I don't think it was specifically in China, but I know he was in East Asia. The host, Josh Gates, used LiDAR, sophisticated radar system, to detect like a lost city. That was very cool. So maybe I fly around there in a flight simulator and find something myself. I mean, I won't, but it's a cool idea. Think about flying around the Bermuda Triangle. That might be fun. Up the California coast, Romania. There's a peninsula off the west coast of Mexico that would be interesting to fly up. Japan, of course. I haven't flown in Japan yet, at least not on the stream. Africa. I want to fly in Africa because I actually wrote a book that takes place in Africa, and I'd like to fly around the areas that I wrote about. Greenland, because I've already flown in Iceland, and I consider Greenland to be the antithesis of Iceland. And I already mentioned Skinwalker Ranch. So these are my ideas, and there's more of them. I didn't say everything. But I think Skinwalker Ranch will be next week. It'll be a fun one. So, like, forever ago, I saw that there was a point of interest up here, and we're still not within range for the user interface to tell me what it is, but we're still flying towards it. It's quite a river we got here. Again, all frozen over. Pretty good sized river. I think for the Skinwalker Ranch stream, I'll start at like a 6 p.m. so that we're out there as dusk approaches. I mean, I'll stream at the regular time, but I'll adjust the in-game clock to put us out there as dusk approaches, and I'll use the gyrocopter to make that flight because I think that's the best option. I'll just kind of fly around and see what's out there. Maybe there will be some interesting geography. Maybe maybe the game will glitch in a very strange way. Or maybe, and most likely, nothing will happen. But hey, it gives me an excuse to play the flight simulator at night, which is something I haven't done yet. And again, coming up with these narratives to justify being out there in the first place. You want to be a storyteller. You're like you're doing this mundane thing. You're performing this flight. Really for no purpose at all. Like, what am I even doing out here, man? What am I doing? Like, what am I even doing? So you're performing this flight. You want to have some narrative to go along with it. It's a nice landscape, though. It's not as rocky as I thought it would be. I thought we'd have more kind of mountains out here. It just isn't happening. It might. I mean, it is way more rocky out here than it has been. So maybe we're getting into that kind of thing. But most of all, it's pretty flat. I mean, we see where this river carved through this landscape. That's a nice shot right there. You can see how the shadows are interacting with the geography. Alta. That point of interest finally popped up. Man, that was way farther away than I thought it was. I think in Norway, see, I'm a bit concerned about the sun setting before we get to our location because I haven't done any real night flying yet in this game. So I'm a bit concerned about the sun setting before we get to our destination. But I think in Norway, this far north, the sun mostly moves horizontally through the sky. So I don't think I think that's still several hours away from setting. So I think we're good. We're really quite north. But yeah, the shadows are starting to kind of interplay with the landscape, so that's a good sign that we're getting close to the end of the day. I really would like to make it to our destination before sunset. Just under 50 nautical miles left. The cat's still misbehaving. It barely touched my strawberry milk. And all I want to do is watch another episode of Murderville. Getting close to finishing Seinfeld. Over the last year and a half, I've been working my way through all 9 seasons of Seinfeld, and we have like 10 episodes left. And I never really appreciated the last episode, like most people. But I think having watched the entire show from beginning to end, and kind of understanding more how they have these consecutive narratives throughout the episodes, like different episodes have like these consecutive narratives. I think I might end up appreciating it more, the finale. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm about 10 episodes away. Seinfeld. Another point of interest over here, north of Alta. Valley between the hills. Come on, pop up, tell me what you are. Rafts button. It might be hard to see on the stream, but yeah, there's a couple of houses down there. Barn, possibly. Now we're getting into a far more undulated landscape. It looks like that river, I could be wrong, but it looks like that river curved back around and we're about to pass over it again. Yeah, that could be what that is. Oh, you know what? I bet you that's like a whole lake. And this is just a river off of that lake. Kind of hard to tell. When everything's frozen like this, it's kind of hard to tell where a field ends and a lake begins. 33 nautical miles. So I would imagine since Hammerfest is the most northernmost town in the world, I would imagine that there are probably a lot of. It's probably bigger than we think. It's probably going to have like a lot of. I wouldn't say hotels, but a lot of places for like research teams to launch their expeditions from. Uh, that's probably why there's an airstrip there. Honestly, uh, you take off from Hammerfest and go do your little Arctic exploration, see the Yeti, and come home. No one believes you. Your camera didn't work that day. Kind of a dreamlike landscape, even more so than the desert. Like you kind of get like this. I keep using the word mundane, but it's accurate because it's this kind of vast nothing landscape, but there's so much content in it. Like there's so much of nothing to see, and the result is something quite surreal. It does seem otherworldly. Like this is the kind of place where like a film crew would go to I don't know, perhaps set up a scene in a movie that's supposed to be very otherworldly, or like you know, like Hoth. Like I can imagine an AT-AT on those hills over there. You know what I'm saying? Like this definitely seems like a Hoth to me. And as we get closer to Hammerfest, I imagine that we're going to start seeing more pockets of civilization on account of Hammerfest being somewhat significant, apparently, which I didn't know when I picked it out. We're actually getting really close. We're making really good time. We're just now an hour and a half into the flight, and we're only 20 nautical miles away. So we're making really good time. I don't think the wind is blowing very hard, but uh, whatever is propelling us along our flight path um, faster than I expected is it's a welcomed phenomenon. Yeah, this is a huge uh, I don't know, like really wide river, like an incredibly wide river. And we can see, like you can start to see the I told you I'm bad at geography. I don't know if that's the ocean out there or a sea. Um, well, this would be the Arctic, so that would be the Arctic Ocean, right? So you can kind of see where the ocean is out there, a blue line across the horizon. We're getting really close to our destination. I haven't seen any civilization out here, specifically outside of what I would expect would be at Hammerfest. But yeah, you can just see the ocean out there between the landscape and the cloud layer. It's a very faint swath of blue. Might even be imperceivable on the stream, I'm not sure. I have the benefit of sitting 2 feet away from a 4K television, so I don't know what you can see on the stream, but it looks pretty good. Ocean coming into view. Alright, well I can see the runway. So remember what I said about possibly botching my landing. Let's see how we do. And my cat, of course, is choosing right now to completely be getting into a whole bunch of trouble, but nothing I can do. I have to ignore it. Hope she doesn't break the house while landing the plane. It's kind of hard to tell the orientation of the runway. And I'm kind of out of practice. I know that there's a landing brackets that help you line up, and I kind of forgot how to make those pop up. But we'll see when we get close. I'm sure it'll be fine. I think the runway is in those hills over there to the right. Take a swig of strawberry milk real quick. Ah, it's tasty stuff. Definitely need to lower my altitude. Way too high up. It wants me to be at 900 feet, which seems too low. Like that just seems a bit low to me. Alright. I don't really see a runway. I trust that there's one over there, because that's what the instruments are telling me, but I don't really see one. Lower my airspeed a bit. Oh, see, now the thing pops up. I think the problem is I approached this runway from completely the wrong direction. But I think we'll be okay. It says I'm going too fast. Just ignore that. It's gonna say that. What can I do? If I go any slower, I'll fall out of the sky. Is that the runway? I can't even really tell that that's the runway. Yeah, we got a pretty big town here. So this is the northernmost town in the world, huh? Alright, I see it. That is a difficult runway to discern. Oh man, I gotta even out. It's gonna be a rough landing. Ooh. And there it is. Hey, not bad. All right, so that was flying northwest through Norway to. I keep on wanting to say Hammer Nest, Hammerfest, Hammerfest. Yes, that's right. So, thanks for watching the stream, and I'm gonna let the AI, the autopilot, do the taxiing. The AI is kind of broken, so it might want to take off again. But hopefully it just does the taxiing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.